Welcome to 2030, the podcast. Over the series so far, we've had some really interesting guests, and today is no different. We've got Haydon and Julie Warner from Warner Recruitment. I have to declare an interest here that I work with Haydon and Julie on an ongoing basis and work with them in the business, and I think it's an exciting recruitment company that's just got something different. There's a bit of X factor about it, and we'll talk about that as we go forward. So just want to welcome Haydon and Julie to the podcast. Look forward to chatting, maybe on a different level than we ordinarily do. And as I usually start off, I'm going to ask you, how did Warner Recruitment come to be? And just love to hear your story from, where it began, how, Julie, you were in recruitment originally, but how did that even start to the point you ended up in a business together as sort of a married couple, which is pretty unusual.
Sure. Yeah. So literally, you want to go way back to starting in recruitment. So I graduated in dance and business studies. I did telesales for a year, and then went out for lunch with some friends of mine, and one of which was in recruitment. She worked at Reed in the Milton Keynes office, and thought there might be an opportunity in the Northampton office, which is where I lived. And then, the rest was history. I was in recruitment. So I worked for Reed for 8 years, and then Robert Half for 6 years, and Haydon after. Later in my career within corporate said you should do it by yourself, and I was like, no. I love being in that busy, buzzy environment of a recruitment world, but then woke up one day and went, let's do it.
Great. I'm going to come back to that entrepreneurial story, because that's a question a lot of people in recruitment would ask themselves, and not many have the courage to do it. And how about you, Haydon? Because you're a bit of a accidental recruiter as well, but for different reasons.
Yeah, so I am not from recruitment at all. My background is in scientific industry. So initially it started in technical support and technical installations for analyzers for water analysis and food analysis and agricultural products. I really drilled back to coming into sort of a commercial environment. One of my line managers, he said I would be good in sales, because the way I sort of presented myself, and that sort of he pushed me into it. I always thought salespeople were of a certain ilk, but it was the best thing I ever did was to go into a sales role for the scientific industry. And then through my career, I've been doing field sales, territory sales, and then I ended my career as a managing director for a Dutch subsidiary in the UK. And that's before I joined Warner Recruitment. So I was managing a small team and looking after the subsidiary here in the UK.
Okay. So how did it happen? I'm assuming you knew each other before you got the marriage happened before recruitment rather than the other way around.
I was already working in recruitment when I met Haydon.
Yeah.
So we met in 2007, and I started in recruitment in 2006.
Yeah, and I think from the off, me and Julie getting together, we always talked about work and sort of having successes, whether it's in clinching a deal, or whether it's selling an analyzer, or making a great placement. And also, we also talked about the challenges we have both had in our careers. But we've always talked about work. Always, whereas some partnerships or some marriages, they keep it very separate, but we've enjoyed having that dialogue about work and sales and successes and the challenges working in different industries.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Can I just ask, drill into that a bit? Because I often, I've spent a lot of time looking at other industries and other things. I mean, how different is it really, Haydon? I mean, in recruitment, we all think it's some sort of, nuclear physics. But how different is it really? There's a buyer and a seller, I guess. Did you find it more different or less different than you thought?
I think coming from the scientific industry, you're making a product. It's a tangible product. It could even be a software product or a physical box that goes on a bench. So you know what you're dealing with when you present that to a client. It's the client relationship which then becomes very important. Where when you go into recruitment, you have two relationships. You have the candidate, who is a customer, and the client, also a customer. And I find that really interesting, that you are forging two relationships there. and you have a vested interest in both. So it's a distinct difference there. What I found coming from scientific, when we sell an analyzer, it's like capital equipment. So you can sell it or not sell it, but you won't be able to sell that same analyzer to the customer again for maybe 7 to 10 years. In recruitment, you can have the client one day and lose them the very next day. Or you can win them back. It's so fast paced to what I'm used to in scientific industry.
Yeah, I mean, it's also interesting, you both might have a view on this, but I've often thought recruitment somehow is still quite an emotional choice. Whereas when you're selling a product, it is you either want it or you don't, you know. But recruitment, there is an emotional attachment to the process of someone having left and then being replaced or someone joining and the impact they'll have on the team. So there's a bit more onus put on that kind of part of the process. I mean, do you think that's also a factor in the difference?
Yeah, it's total emotion in it for sure. I mean, if you look at the testimonials we've had on our website, some of them are like, wow, I mean, you can really affect somebody's life in getting them a start in their career or a great job. It really impacts on how they feel and their well-being and how they push on with developing their life and their family life. So that's the bit that is interesting. When coming from the scientific industry, it's a bit drier than that. It's a tool for them, the instrument. So very different in that respect.
Yeah. I mean, Julie will know this having been in recruitment longer, that one thing we overlook is that impact we have on people. I mean, when I look back and think about it, I mean, actually, recruiters don't give themselves enough credit for doing good work. But for you, Julie, I guess, how was it working with Haydon, who'd come from a non-recruitment background, and you're trying to communicate to him in this kind of foreign language? How was that?
Yeah, you forget, because we've been working together since July 21. But yeah, those initial conversations of, well, why do you do it like that? And, if you spoke to a fellow recruiter, they just know. So yeah, you really had to go back to why everything was done in the way it was done. So I really enjoyed setting all my processes and procedures, and I thought they were super tight and tidy when I first set it up. But Haydon quite quickly kind of came in and why do you do it this way? Why do you do it that way? And making everything better and really thinking about the candidate and the client's experience from working with us. And it did definitely open my eyes to looking at things in a different way, rather than just speaking to a fellow colleague that's always done it that way and you just go, yeah, of course you do it like this.
Yeah, and I think that's, it's interesting. You guys get two different perspectives and the best of, and we'll come to talk about love your job and, things you guys believe in. Because one of the reasons I wanted to have the podcast with you is because I talk to lots of recruitment people across the industry, and saying something and then believing it are two completely different things. And the thing with you both is you believe in what you're doing and you believe why you're doing it, and it comes across, and it's borne out by the type of client relationships you have. And I think that's a combination of that kind of DNA around learnings from both sides. I think it's just such a good combination that it's not just all about this insular grandparented recruitment stuff. There's been sort of wisdom come from outside as well, blend them together. And, it's important. I mean, and just talking about love your job, I mean, that's kind of your catchphrase or your purpose. I mean, A, do you love your job? And then B, how do you help people love their job?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I just talked about clients and candidates, but we shouldn't forget the people that start or work for Warner Recruitment as well. There's three really important relationships that we have in our business, and one of them is the staff that work for us. And love your job, I think, has started from within. That actually making the space that we create at Warner Recruitment a place where people want to work and do enjoy their job. And so that's been really important. And I think if we feel that people working here love their job, it makes us feel a lot more comfortable, and we actually enjoy it a lot more. I think when we've had line managers, in our respective industries dictate down to us from their line managers and their line managers from the top, sometimes that message or that culture doesn't fit with you, but you don't know it until you set your own business up. You know, until you step out of it, you don't actually realise actually we can do this so differently. So that's the love of your job, is doing it differently to have people that enjoy working for us.
Yeah, and Julie, do you see that every day in what you do? I mean, it's a challenge, right? Because sometimes there's sort of the hardwired behaviours of a recruiter, which sometimes have nothing to do with loving your job. They just get the grafting done. But how have you found that adjustment?
Sure. I mean, I was always one of those annoying people that if you spoke to a dinner party, that they'd ask what you do, and I'd always say I love what I do. So I found that quite easy transferring that into Warner. And as Hayden says, that it is really nice to be your true, authentic self when you're managing your team, and you're providing your service to candidates and clients. That it really is what feels right from your heart or within you, that you're doing something because it's the best thing for the candidate or the client or for our team.
Yeah, I mean, I would echo what Julie says there. I mean, from the moment I met her, she's always said, I love recruitment. I mean, she's never said she hates recruitment at all. She just loves it.
Yeah.
You know, she's had great days and she's had not so great days,
Yep.
but she loves it. And what makes it even better for her now, she can love it in the way she wants to love it because it's her own business.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I say to a lot of people that the thing that I think, if I can analyse my own career, because I feel like Julie, right? And I've had bad days too, and I guess there are moments where I wonder, but overall, I've loved my job in recruitment all the way through. And when I try to break it down and reflect on it, the reason is it was always an opportunity. Like, actually, the word job for me, it never became a chore. Like, it wasn't like going to work. And every day, because, and recruiters often forget this, the reason I was doing things the way it was designed was because it was creating opportunity for me. I was meeting amazing people. I was getting to do things I would never have gotten to do in my previous career as, believe it or not, an accountant. Um, and the whole thing just became an opportunity. And I try to tell people now, treat it like an opportunity, because you can have an accelerated career, um, and just get into things you never would have gotten into otherwise. So, it's exciting when someone loves their job. I mean, Julie, from your point of view in recruitment, sort of 2023, when you look back at the years you've been in it, has there been, we talk about change, and then I will often talk about the fact it hasn't changed much, but you guys are doing it your own way. Have you seen any material change in recruitment over that time? And if so, what's that look like?
I guess, like, if we talk about technology changes, like I joined in 2006, and I was benefited on some of the systems that Reed had, and then I was quite surprised when going into another agency. Actually, some of the systems were quite backward. So when we set up by ourselves, like, just the technology and the level that every company out there have really thought about. We're in this Amazon generation where we just want to click and it's easy. So yeah, that's definitely been something that we've really enjoyed doing, is investigating the technology, making it super easy for people to apply for jobs, making it easy for us to give candidates feedback. So yeah, we're embracers of technology and having your own business and being able to invest in literally whatever you want to within reason. Financials committing, that's been really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, there's no limit to the amount of money you can spend on technology and recruitment, but I think, I guess have an insight to what you guys are doing, and I think using technology with your skill sets as an organisation in the right balance has been, fundamental. You've tried to maintain those things together, which I think is the right way to go. Um, Julie, can I ask you as well? Sorry, just before I move on to a different sort of area, but you talked about, starting up on your own, and I mentioned, that entrepreneurial flair. A lot of people lay awake at night thinking about it, but not many people do it. What tipped you to say, I'm doing it?
That's a really good question. I think that I never visualised Warner Recruitment being the business that it is now. I think for me, it was definitely baby steps. So initially, I thought it'll just be me working from home, doing what I do best. I love the candidates, I love the clients. I think being in a corporate giant, you are encouraged to go through a process, and I was always a good student and followed the process. And then I got to a point where I didn't want to be an area manager. I didn't want to go through the management structure. I'd kind of stopped saying yes to everything that was offered, and actually some of the things that I was suggesting was then said no. So I thought, fine, as I say, it's the candidates and clients that I love, so I'll do that myself. And then it quite quickly happened that Haydon was like, Jules, this is growing. Like, we could make this something bigger, and that's when we had a discussion about Haydon joining. But the visualization of Warner Recruitment as it is now wasn't.
Yeah, but I think you started the business because I said that you're good at what you do. So if you're good at what you do, you can do it for yourself. You know, you have the passion and you really enjoy it, so you can do it for yourself. And that's the spark to say you can do it for yourself if you want to. And I think, you know, you may have blockers in your way of your career, or you may not agree with how certain structures or management styles are. You know, then I think that gave you the focus to set your own business up.
Yeah, and I think it's an exciting thing to do, but it's also scary, right? You know, because, you know, you go through phases. I mean, over the few years you've been in business, you know, you've gone from that, it's just me,
Yeah.
to there's other people now, you know, the organisation's growing, the customers there, you've got a lot of loyalty from clients. You know, there's a sense of responsibility that comes with that. So, you know, how have you adapted to that as well? Because when you're a recruiter, I mean, you're running your desk, but now you're, you know, I guess in partnership, you're making sure that everybody else is, you know, getting with what they, you know, is that is that in the love your job category too?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit, as I say, I'm an annoying eternal optimist. Like, I never really think about the negative. So,
You got me for that.
yeah. So yeah, definitely working in partnership with Haydon. Like, there is no way the business would grow to the level that it is without Haydon. And I often say that without Haydon being my husband, that level of talent would never have come into Warner Recruitment. There's no way I could attract someone like that at such an early stage. So to have someone of Haydon's level reviewing the business, and then that gives me the level of confidence with the management. Like, as I say, it's never something I've enjoyed. I do enjoy dealing with or working with staff and supporting them and growing them, but it's not something that comes natural. I've naturally enjoyed, but working with Haydon, that really helps me.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, go on, Hayden.
I think you know, if you set up your own business, you can say, well, why don't you set up your own business in your 20s or your early or your 30s? I think me being older and going into my career and drawing on my own experience from being the managing director from a previous company allowed me to gain that experience, because in essence I was running the company in the UK like my own business. So that allowed me to draw on that experience and sort of give the encouragement and that backing to Julie, just in support. And I think I've always look back and say, how hard can it be? Any little scenario I come against, I say, well, I compare it to the hardest thing I've ever done. Is it harder than that? And in nearly all cases, it's not. Therefore, I can get over it.
Yep.
You know, I always compare it to the hardest thing I've ever done, and I break everything into small, bite-sized chunks.
Yeah, so a lot of the mistakes that we've had, or the training and the learning, we've done that under someone else. So yeah, I was super lucky in my recruitment industry that I was heavily invested in and went on lots of training. And like, you know, lots of people say you'll make loads of mistakes in your career, and I guess because we've set up later in our career, we've not kind of like made like
A lot of it is common sense as well, isn't it?
well.
100%. You know, like for example, your point, Hayden, about, you know, like it's how does it compare to the hardest thing you've ever done? Well, actually, it's not. It's not even close. However, I guess in recruitment, there's a culture of, you know, this sort of beasting and the job's difficult. You know, it's a simple process, and people just need to be consistent and execute with the level of passion. And it kind of works out. And, at the end of the day, it's that mindset, I'll do what it takes, to get it right. People want you to help them. So, yeah, I think that's the right way to break it down. I also think what's really interesting is that the way you look at it, when you've got your recruiter brain plugged in, like I have for nearly all my career, it's just refreshing for someone to come in and go, that isn't that tricky. Because in a lot of ways, everybody's telling everybody it's quite difficult
Sure.
because it just
Yeah.
makes it feel that way. So I just want to talk about the growth of the business and your brand. It's an unavoidable discussion. So for anyone who's just met you both on this podcast for the very first time, they don't realise that the Warner and Warner partnership is not just in business, but you guys are amazing dancers and are involved in all sorts of aspects of that. I'm not sure, is it considered an art or a sport or both?
Both.
With both, definitely both.
Yeah, because I see the videos of you guys training and, you're working hard. Now, I've become a bit of a fan, not something I ever had an interest in before, but because I know you, I kind of get more interested in it. I think it's just amazing. And one of the things that's exciting about that, and by the way, we'll find a clever way to weave in some video into this podcast for you. Because I think, as a fan, I need to do that. But I'd like to talk about some of the factors around that, right? So, I'd like to talk about the brand, the Warner brand, because I know a lot of people know you as dancers and, you've got fans that are clients and, I think it's fascinating that you can build a brand and it just happens to do recruitment and people are engaged in that. I think because you're married, people are engaged in that aspect of the story as well. And then I think there's so many good lessons and parallels about the amount of effort you guys put in to be as good as you are. I see the videos of you on Instagram heading off for more training, more lessons, more coaching. We talked the other day when we met about trying to keep up with the young upstarts coming through, and becoming better. There's so many parallels and lessons. Talk me through your kind of, the brand piece of dance and how that's helped you, or, how you've translated what you know from dance into your business. Because I think it's just, an absolutely great example.
Just heading on the dance is harder than running a business together, I think. And I think that's why we realised we could work together, because learning to dance together, like only dancers can understand how hard that is. But the brand piece, so we just quite quickly decided. I think you were the initiator of creating a Warner Recruitment logo, and
Yeah, I think because just going back, what we probably failed to say, Warner Recruitment started during the first lockdown in COVID. And when it started during lockdown with COVID, we had an audience because nobody was going anywhere. So social media was a big thing. And Julie really recognized that she wanted to sort of entertain a bit people. When launching Warner Recruitment, she saw it as an opportunity to talk about herself and the business, but not just talk about herself and the business, is to put some entertainment out there, make it interesting. And that's really how dance got involved with Warner Recruitment, I think.
Yeah, it was like, as I say, everyone was at home. A lot of people were on furlough. A lot of people had lost their jobs. The last thing that they wanted me to do is a cold call saying, "Have you got any jobs?" Like, no, go away. So I visualised the people at home that were in that vulnerable position of, I'm furloughed, I might not have a job to go back to, or I've been made redundant, and how the hell do I get a new job? As I say, went to social media to offer hints and tips on CVs, what to add into your CV, what will help you stand out, the sort of jobs to apply for. Perhaps if you're applying for loads of jobs and getting no responses, saying the things that perhaps people didn't want to hear, but was genuinely helpful.
And then incorporating the dance into that and made it interesting because, people were generally, I think, quite bored during COVID at times as well, and maybe struggling.
Yeah. So yeah, I put lots of just. I think we had a bit of a campaign of. Obviously Zoom backgrounds was a really important thing, wasn't it? Like who's got the best Zoom background? So I decided to make mine Northamptonshire themed. In Northamptonshire, we're big for shoes. So I put out. I worked in a shoe department when I was 16, and I know that shoes just used to disappear. So I put out an appeal to local shoe manufacturers that has anyone got odd shoes that I can put in my background. And then we're big on logistics in Northamptonshire, so I got model lorries, and yeah, people were sending things to me in the post. I had people that were making things locally, like the swim fins that became quite popular at one point that kids wear on their back to when they went on holiday swimming. I got sent things like that in the post, and then would just publicise other people's businesses. So yeah, I had good fun with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you talk about community because Northampton and community is fundamental to who the business is. I mean, you're invested with time and money and sponsorship in your local community. I mean, how integral has that been? Not just from your own inner point of view, but also the wider customer, candidate, client sort of phenomena.
Yeah, I guess with working with clients locally, their business is really important to us, and there are so many locally established businesses. Yeah, it was really nice to be able to sing about someone else's business rather than say I'm brilliant. Like it just didn't really feel natural to me, so I just enjoyed singing about other people's businesses and increasing exposure. And we still do that in our social media posts by putting out about local events. Some people say they come onto the Warner Recruitment page to see what else is happening locally.
Yeah. And it's such an important thing, right? I think that's where a lot of agencies, they post jobs on LinkedIn. That's it. That's their marketing. Or they post technical tips and tricks about, commentary of what's going on in the world of recruitment. And there's nothing wrong with that. But actually, as I've said, why do it boring? I mean, I think ultimately when you think about people's behavior as consumers, people consume services from organizations they like, where there's a level of buy-in and
Yeah.
they feel like they know the brand. And I think that's what you've really cracked. That the idea that people feel like they know you, before they even meet you, because you
Yeah.
let people in,
Yeah.
and you let people into your kind of dance experience and your community experience, which I think just, it makes people know you, and that's fantastic. That level of trust is already there. And I think so few recruitment agencies try to build a brand around something that you've done. I think it's a hugely unique proposition.
Yeah, I mean that's really important for us is to try and have people understand us or get to know us before they actually speak to us, because we want clients and candidates to call us, talk to us, especially on the client side. Give us the opportunity to present to them. Maybe the opportunity is not right at that time for them or for us, but we want them to sort of have a good experience regardless, and they could be silently following us or they could have a meeting with us. But we just want them to understand what we're about, I think.
And how many, I mean, I know this may not be a number you measure, but do you think there's a percentage of your clients that are there because they're actually engaged with the brand story and you just happen to be amazing at recruitment as well?
Yeah, I think, I couldn't put a number on it, but I think a lot of the clients have approached us because they've seen our content across social media, and they've seen Julie, the positive energy that Julie gives, um, because Julie is predominantly on the social media side of things, and they've actually engaged with us or called us because of that.
Yeah, or not necessarily them, but their friends then follow us and then say you need to look at these guys. So yeah, we get a lot of referrals through our social media. So it's perhaps not necessarily our clients on social media, but Northamptonshire, as I say, there's definitely a community feel here. Everyone knows everyone, and so yeah, we come up in conversation, I think.
Yeah, I mean, again, and not that I'm, so as the podcast goes, I would encourage everybody to follow you both on social, Warner Recruitment on Instagram or any of the other favourite channels you've got, including LinkedIn, because it's just, interesting. I still don't know what jazz funk is, but I know that happened last week. So,
It's just really painful, Steve.
it sounds pain. Jazz funk sounds really awkward. I don't know what it is, but yeah, there you go.
I know, the first time I went to that lesson, like, I can't remember how I was traumatized.
She staggered in the house. I didn't go that day.
I thought, yeah, as you say, it'd be easy, it'd be good fun. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
hard.
And for me to even say jazz funk, there are people watching this podcast going, "Who is that?" They don't recognise it. See what you've done? You've created a monster. I mean, Haydon, because you're a reformed rugby player, right?
No, I'm not a rugby player. I was a cyclist. I was.
Cyclist, that's right, cyclist. My apologies.
Yeah, cyclist. So, my sport from a very early age was cycle racing. So I did my first cycle race at sort of 13 years old, and then carried on cycling and racing into my sort of mid to late 20s, I think it was.
Okay.
And I moved into martial arts as well. So I did jiu-jitsu for about 10 years up to black belt level, and that's helped with the dance actually. I think a little bit.
Yeah. Was there always an inner dancer, or did
Yes,
it?
yeah. If you ask my mother, she tried to take me to ballet school when I was a small boy, and they told me I was too old. I was only about 6 or 7 years old, or something like that. Maybe
Yeah.
a bit old, maybe a bit old. But this is
Yeah.
I was too old.
I've yet to discover my inner dancer, as my wife will tell you. Yeah, much more comfortable on the touchline somewhere else. But hey, it doesn't stop me learning a bit. And do you get? I mean, so this is an irrelevant question, but I'm just curious. When things like Strictly come on TV, does the interest in you guys get bigger because people are identifying, or is that just kind of they're unrelated completely?
No, they do get interest. I mean, we actually train at OT Mabusi's school down in London 3 times a week. So OT used to be one of the professional dancers on Strictly,
Yeah.
and yeah, the vibe, the energy. I mean, we love Strictly. It's September, and you know it's going to start, and we all watch it every evening because it's such a great entertainment. And because we're training down in London, we don't know who we're going to bump into now at OT's school because we do see some of the celebrities, don't we?
We do, yeah.
There you go. There's two things I don't think I'd ever talk about on a podcast: jazz funk and Strictly, all in one call. See what you've done for me? Okay, so let me just move back onto sort of business. I'm really keen to explore your perspective on the future of what we do as an industry and how that might work. So you guys are, embracing technology, and you've started out on this course of action to do it your own way. But if we go in the podcast called 2030, the podcast, because I'm interested to see what your crystal ball says. What does your crystal ball say about how this might look in 2030?
Something that I noticed in recruitment is that for a long time I was the youngest, and I kind of got into my 30s and still felt like I was one of the youngest in the office. So for me, I think that recruitment as it existed, I guess its heyday was I perceived to be in the 90s, where you kind of that heavy sales environment. I joined it in 2000. And it just about still worked. But I think that with the younger generation, they're just not motivated by the same things. I think we sell to the younger people like that money, and they kind of perhaps visualize the only way is Essex lifestyle, and then they get into it and think, actually, this is it's not worth it. And I think that true, authentic self and people wanting to do things to help other people, I think our newer generation are motivated by helping other people more than having extra money in their own back pocket. So we're certainly dissecting roles because I believe that people could be better than me, not in everything that I do, but in small parts. And everyone likes different job duties. I recruit accountants. I wouldn't want to do an accountant's job, and they wouldn't want to do my job. We're almost polar opposites. So there is a skill set that will suit different people, and they'll do different things, as I say, better than I do. So the idea is to dissect the role into into chunks where someone can really excel in different parts of it, and then with technology supporting that.
Yeah, I think that's all credit to you though, Steve. I think, when we first met you, you started to get us to visualize that actually, people enjoy doing certain aspects of their job, but not everything. And I think that really got us to think about how we structure the business as well. That why don't we recruit people in the job they want to do and enjoy doing, and they feel fulfilled when they go home, and they're happy to come to work on a Monday and carry on. And so that's how we've sort of set it up. Like Julie says, is dissecting the roles when working with Warner Recruitment. Looking at 2030, technology is obviously going to be very big in any industry, and in recruitment. What I would like to try and do is get more added value, relationship side of things elevated in recruitment. That was something that I did have from my previous industry in scientific, because when they bought an instrument, they would have that instrument for 7 to 10 years as a relationship you have with that company for that long. And I feel that side of things I would like to get into recruitment more long-term relationships and added value. So that's the way I visualize the business for us, certainly.
Yeah, I think the expectation is about value added and that continuity around quality. I think where, Julie touched on the point in a different way that, that sort of heavy sales culture, it's harder and harder for agencies to find people that are signed up to that, even though, in my view, sadly, agencies continue to promote that as the reason why you want to be a recruiter.
Yeah.
And I actually think the 2 points you both made independently will crash into each other at some point. And that is, people that think like that are not capable of those kind of relationships that are required. And the customers, both clients and candidates, expect a much higher level of value added. So I think there's a level of reshaping that's required. And I think to the point you made, Julie, about people in recruitment, I think I always find it fascinating that recruitment agencies continue to hire people with a similar sort of background, DNA, personality, style. And, I often talk about the fact is all agencies have got amazing team spirit. And the reason is because they've hired 20 of the same person. They don't have very good teamwork because they're all selfish, right?
Yes.
So, there is a moment coming where agencies need to lift the lid on that stuff and realise that it's time to change and to move in a different direction. And I completely agree with you. I also think, just for what it's worth, to sort of top and tail that point, that the world of recruitment is critical to business, and it will be there because people will always be part of business because humans trust humans.
Yeah.
But some of the tasks don't need to be done by highly skilled communicators, and we spend too long in recruitment having really talented people stare at screens. But anyway, that's a whole new podcast on its own. Right, so I've got one question left, which I ask everybody, and that is, if you weren't doing what you are doing now professionally, what would you be doing? And I kind of can already guess, but go on, shock me. What would you be doing?
Can I go first? Because I want to get it in first.
Go.
So,
Hey.
Can I go? Yeah?
Yeah, go ahead.
So there was a message on LinkedIn, actually. Somebody posed this question. And I think, 4 or 5 years ago, I wouldn't have said this, but yeah, I mean, I would be, if I wasn't running Warner Recruitment and money was no object, I'd be having the best dance teachers around the world teaching me to dance, and I'd be touring the world, dancing and competing and doing performances. That's what I would see as really interesting to me if I wasn't running Warner Recruitment.
Okay. So, hey, sorry, just so you know, the Wi-Fi dropped out at your end, so you froze. So I'll edit this out, but can you do that bit again? So just tell me what you're doing.
Level of enthusiasm, come on, Haydon, you can do it.
Yeah, you blew up the Wi-Fi.
So are you there, Steve? Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Go again. Do it again.
So I had this question on LinkedIn. Somebody had posted it on LinkedIn. What would you be doing if you weren't running your business or working in the company that you work for? So I put the message on that I would be touring the world dancing and also being taught by the best dance teachers around the world, and competing and seeing the sights of the world, but doing the passion of dancing at the same time.
Amazing. I bet they didn't see that.
Etc. But I saw it as a different thing. I saw it as an opportunity to say if I wasn't doing what I do now, completely different.
Yeah, it's the truth, right? Which is, people just get confused. There's nothing wrong with being authentic. You know, that's what people buy, right? What does Simon Sinek say? People buy why you do it, not what you do.
Yeah, that's it. I think that we quite quickly decided that don't be mediocre, as in no one buys if you sit on the fence and have no opinions. Like, no one likes you, no one dislikes you, you're okay. But be more you, and perhaps half the audience will love what you do, half the audience will hate what you do, but actually the half that love what you do are in your tribe and will follow you. But yeah.
100%. What about you, Julie? Would you be on the tour with him, getting the best?
I'd have to be. I'm his dance partner, aren't I? But yeah, certainly, if money was no object, then yeah, that would certainly be what we would love to do.
On the way into work this morning, I was talking to Jules about going to Italy and staying in a nice little hotel and walking down to the street and having a nice little breakfast with strong coffee in an Italian street while my tail suit is being made by the tailor around the corner.
Nice. I hope you get to do that in the very near future.
We will do it. Yeah, it will happen.
Which is amazing. And the last question, I might get shouted down for asking, but you're married, your dance partners, your business partners, how come you're still speaking?
We're very good at having different hats. So I mentioned that it was dancing together that's made us realise that we could work together. So yeah, Haydon says he's got three. He hadn't realised.
I definitely have.
Yeah, three different versions of me. So I don't think you'd realised how many different versions there were. I didn't realise I had different versions either. I thought it was the same in everywhere. But yeah, he says there's dance Jules, there's work Jules, and there's wife Jules. And which one's your favourite?
Wife Jules.
So
yeah,
I'm okay with that. Haydon's the same.
Guys, thanks so much. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. You know, I get the good fortune to see you from time to time anyway, but hopefully we've shown other people what Warner's about, and, you know, how you can build a successful recruitment business and a brand, and, you know, develop, you know, an unbelievable partnership in so many ways. You know, it's such a great story, and the best part of your story is yet to be told. So, you know, that's even more exciting from my point of view. So, look, just wanted to say thanks for being part of it, and, you know, look forward to catching up with you.